I'm going to address, to kick us off this morning, I'm going to talk a lot about the journey that Hudson's Bay has been on. And I think it would be really important for me to, if I want to think about the future of Hudson's Bay, I need to really delve into a little bit of where we've come from, what we're experiencing today, and where we're headed in the future. So I'm going to address all of those and talk really deliberately about how we're reinventing ourselves, how retail is reinventing itself, and the customer. And I'm going to talk obviously about digital as a key component of that. So I'll start things off by just addressing that I'm really relatively new to Hudson's Bay. I joined a year ago, and as Faz said, I came from many different industries. I've worked in banking, I've worked in insurance, and I've worked in packaged goods, most of the time actually in packaged goods. And I think what's been interesting in joining Hudson's Bay and joining a retailer is all of those elements are present within the retail environment. So we have, deep connections with our consumer. We obviously have products. We have financial service offerings through our credit portfolio and our loyalty offerings, and so it's been a really wonderful to come to a team and come to a brand that has all of the sort of the different elements that I've experienced in the past, but actually in one place. I will say it is a huge challenge to join a retailer, a fashion retailer in particular, in the midst of a global pandemic. But we'll address some of those challenges as we go through this morning's presentation. So I want to start a little bit with the history, and somehow my screen is not moving. Oh, there we go. A bit of our history. So I really need to address first and foremost how old Hudson's Bay is. So we were founded in 1670. We are the longest operating company in North America. And what's super interesting about this is that this year is our 350th year. So as I joined the organization, as we started this journey in 2019, 2020, it was really to celebrate 350 years of resilience, of innovation, of being part of Canada's history. And I think what's also interesting is where we came from and how it started. So in 1670, the whole goal of Hudson's Bay was around hats. And so the first thing was in 1670, the must-have fashion item in for European men at the time was a hat made of beaver fur. And the reason that beaver fur was really important is that it was waterproof. So you can imagine in London, in other places in Europe, this was a really critical fashion trend. And the demand for these hats had actually grossly depleted the beaver population in Europe. And so that was a big catalyst at the time in Europe to find new sources of fur. What that led to was this voyage of two French explorers really trying to find new sources of fur. And what happened was the discovery of the huge beaver population in North America, and ultimately that is what led to the establishment of Hudson's Bay Company. What's interesting is that this also had this monumental impact on Canada. It predates the formation of Canada and had a very lasting and monumental impact on the Indigenous people of Canada. And so I'm really only touching on our history and its relevance to our reinvention for the future, but I would be really remiss not to mention how important and it is to acknowledge that our discovery of the beaver fur population had this very lasting and monumental impact on the Indigenous peoples of Canada and in Canada in general. And today, we've become one of the leading retail destinations. So really why this is critical is that in 350 years, this is not actually the first pandemic that has been experienced. And it's not the first time that Hudson's Bay has changed direction. So over the past 350 years, we have had to expand into, as the as fashion trends changed and hats became out of fashion and people thought it would be the end of Hudson's Bay, what are we going to do? There was a pivot into retail, started with stores and moved into department stores in the 1900s. Hudson's Bay Company diversified their business, went into things like oil and gas, went into fishing, went into many different industries in real estate and et cetera that aren't as well known today. But my point around looking back at the history is it's not the first time that this company has had to reinvent itself and has faced significant adversity and change in consumer habits. And that is one of the critical moments that as we look back, we'd say, how does anyone survive 350 years? The amount of change that a company goes through requires you to be innovative, embracing that change and looking at how you move forward in a new way versus before. And so today we're one of Canada's leading retail destinations, and this is the moment. So the original goal of this presentation that I was asked to do is this, the question that I was asked is this the end of retail? And I think, of course, it's not the end of retail. Consumers still wear clothes, they still buy things. It's absolutely not the end of retail in any way, shape, or form, but it is a significant moment of change and reinvention. So we know that the consumers have been changing over the last 10 years. When I started in marketing, I had a media plan that had 3 lines. It was like TV, radio, print, and that was it. It was super easy. I mean, we spent a lot of time on it, but it was in hindsight a really easy an easy media plan to absorb. Now we have 350 lines. We look at multiple ways to reach the consumer. So the consumer and the digital environment has changed everything that we do. And we all know that. But what's happened in this moment as we're all experiencing this massive crisis, is that it has accelerated our need for reinvention, and it has accelerated the consumer behavior change that we were seeing before. In many presentations I've seen people say, it's like we dropped 7 years of change into 3 months, and now we're seeing this acceleration of consumer behavior that we didn't anticipate would happen so quickly, although we all probably knew it was happening. So I will say that we've all been rethinking our business models and shifting our priorities, and what's really interesting is how quickly we've needed to now adjust. I will say, as I mentioned, it isn't the last time that or the first time that we've had to pivot. And when the decline of fur interest happened, we did have to look for other industries to evolve to. We entered retail in the late 1800s, we diversified, and again, we've had this real history of adapting and innovating, and we'll continue to do so. So one of the most important things is this catapulting of the digital mindset to the forefront of our focus. We have been, and retailers everywhere have been, making investments in technology and marketing channels, and our focus has been this shift from traditional to digital channels. What's been great is that we were able to accelerate some of our existing efforts. So we were able to migrate thebay.com, which is our retail e-commerce platform, onto a new platform, really improving the shopper experience at this ever critical point. And we did that in March. So right in the midst of the shutdown, we were migrating our site to a better experience. And so that's been really great to be able to meet the consumer in that moment with this improved shopping experience. We accelerated our strategies and really focused on reflecting this incredible shift we saw in consumer priorities. When the pandemic and the shutdown occurred, our stores closed, and we saw consumers immediately shift to new needs. And that was a really important imperative that we had then to understand what consumers need and make sure that we're connecting and delivering the quality products that people have come to expect to be delivered from Hudson's Bay. And so let's talk about the customer. Uh, the customer has massively evolved through this crisis. So I talked a little bit about the evolution that was already underway. Our consumption of digital media has been ever growing, social media and net new landscaping impacting the consumer. And the pandemic and the health crisis has really brought new needs to the forefront or accelerated needs that may have been more latent before. So, for example, as soon as people started to have to spend more time at home, we saw spikes in searches for jogging pants. We saw people looking for toys and puzzles and games and educational materials for their children, since they now had to entertain all day long children at home. We saw a spike in activewear and the need for people to find ways to remain active at home. We sold out of bread makers as people sort of became much more interested in time with family in the kitchen, and this return to comfort and needs. And so I say this because our goal at Hudson's Bay is always to meet consumers exactly where they are right now. And so it became very critical that we understood what was happening for the customer, what context they were experiencing, and how could we serve their needs. What was relevant to them and what mattered to them in the moment was what was super critical for our marketing and our programming. The other category that I'll talk a little bit about is beauty. So it was, and I think what we saw in the beauty care category is this return to skincare, a real reflection of people wanting to, again, keep the products that they needed every day to meet their needs going. And so it was this move from non-essential products to essential. And what was great is that we were able to pivot to exactly what consumers needed in the moment. And our focus as marketers was to really rethink the categories that were connecting with people at the time. And so all of our work was really around reflecting that people needed to be caring for themselves, nourishing themselves, seeking comfort, and the family time that they had. Faz spoke about this in the beginning around how are people dealing with this surge in social justice and awareness. And consumers, we know, beyond just experiencing this massive change in how they live their lives, are demanding better of corporate Canada, and they should continue to do so. So this is not a new trend of purpose-led retail, but it is an accelerated demand from consumers for brands that positively impact society. We have been able to address that with our consumers by forging partnerships with companies like Inland, who bring Indigenous and BIPOC designers to the forefront and allow them to expand their distribution of products so that Canadians can shop and accelerate these really important Canadian brands and designers. We were able to pivot our sponsorship with TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival, to really make sure that we could create a program that had meaning for Canada and for the film industry. And so we launched our fellowship program for the love of film, which supports BIPOC filmmakers. We've made critical donations to the Black Health Alliance, Food Banks Canada, and Kids Help Phone, because we know that there is a crisis in Canada through this pandemic, that not just a social crisis demanding for better and demanding for change within corporate Canada, but also to meet the needs of consumers that are very impacted by this health crisis and unable to meet their basic needs, and a recognition that children and children's mental health is a major issue in Canada. And so our goal with our donations and our support also of the City of Toronto's Shelter Project, there were many different programs we did, but all of that was around remembering what our purpose as a company was, our role in Canada, and our focus on making sure that Canadians are supported throughout this health crisis. So it's really a reflection of our transformation to be super consumer-led, and to meet consumers exactly where they are with what they need in the moment, whether it's the products and services that we offer or the donations and the changes that we can lead in the environment. There is a role, and we couldn't talk about reinvention and transformation without talking about digital. There is always going to be a role for traditional marketing channels, but digital is the way consumers consume content, and digital is the future of how people will shop content, whether it's shop product, whether it's researching that product, whether it's understanding if the store is open, whether it's planning a trip, researching new products, or completing a sale or looking for service after the sale. We know that digital is a critical component, and that's a shift that we've made as a company. And I believe that, you know, this crisis that we're in today has allowed us actually the freedom in some ways to accelerate and go more quickly on that. And so reaching customers through technology is really critical. And we talk a lot about digital marketing in many different conferences, including this one, but it is important that we never forget that it is a journey that consumers are on. And so just reaching them with digital, using digital tooling is important, but it's also important that we engage their entire journey in a digital way. So first and foremost, we've taken some obvious first steps. I mentioned before that we migrated our site and improved the experience. The goal around that was really to improve our site speed, to reduce the amount of steps and reduce friction in our checkout process. We introduced a live chat tool on thebay.com so that customers could speak directly with associates in our stores, getting support and getting questions answered while they shop online. And when it was safe to do so, we introduced a curbside pickup option on thebay.com for those who preferred a contactless shopping experience. And so it was really the entire customer journey that we wanted to take into account, and thinking not just about thebay.com as a shopping experience, but also a servicing experience and an omni-channel experience, and making sure that we created a seamless link between our bricks and mortars channel and our digital channel. Hudson's Bay Rewards program, near and dear to my heart. We relaunched and modernized our Hudson's Bay Rewards program, simplifying the benefits for our members, but most importantly, digitizing that program. So in the past, our program was a little bit clunky. You weren't able to redeem your points at the point of sale. You weren't able to sign up for the program online, and it was difficult to see your balance. And all of that has now been upgraded and removed to a new technology platform where customers no longer even need to carry a plastic card. It's all connected to their own personal information. They can, anytime they check out, whether it's online or in store, understand their points value, redeem their points on the spot, and sign up for the program if they're not yet a member. And so we're very excited. This launched in September, and we're very excited with the engagement we continue to see from customers that are currently points members or rewards members, and the amount of signups we're getting on the site is astronomical and exceeding all of our expectations. We see really high expectations for what this program can do in the future. And again, the love that our consumers have for Hudson's Bay is coming through as we relaunch this program. And I think consumers are excited to see what's coming next. There's also a role for technology and digital as we think about what are the consumers' needs right now in the moment in stores. And when safety becomes a key and critical concern while people are shopping the store, we introduced and partnered with a company called Clean Slate UV. And so what Clean Slate UV does is it has a UV sanitizer in our select stores where the UV light, when you put your cell phone, your keys, or your bank card into the device, it actually immediately sanitizes it. So for items that get a lot of use and could have the potential to be carrying harmful bacteria, we've offered this service to our stores, inside our stores for our customers and also our employees, to make sure we can feel confident that, and consumers can feel confident that you know, beyond just following the basics around wearing masks and upgrading our cleaning protocols and social distancing, we're also providing value-added technology to increase the safety of our consumers and employees as they shop. And I couldn't talk about the transformation without talking about our events. As a department store retailer, eventing is a really critical component of our marketing mix. We've held beauty events, we hold live events with our influencers inside our stores, and it's a large portion of our marketing mix as we, when we look in the past. The future, obviously, needed to look very different. And when our events and in-store stores were temporarily closed, we had to really rethink how we engage our national customer base in a really fun but still safe way. So we developed a series of virtual and live social media and Zoom event experiences that were led by a multitude of Hudson's Bay ambassadors and partners across many categories. These spoke to the consumer mindsets and what people were needing in that moment beyond product. And so this was really around creating content that's engaging and supports our consumers in a new way. We ran Instagram live dance sessions, Zoom DIY sessions and workout classes, Facebook live cooking classes, YouTube fashion presentations, and these continue today and are very successful at both allowing our consumers to connect in a new way and engage with the brand and with our products in a new way. And one of the most interesting things that I feel like happened as we looked at how do we reach and connect with consumers where they are today in this new moment was looking at how our consumers engaging with content in different ways. So many of you will have heard of Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing was a hugely popular social simulation game that had a big resurgence and had tons and tons of downloads and engagement across the world, actually. And we wanted to make sure that we could participate where our consumers are today. And so this was a really non-traditional way to integrate our product, but we allowed players to engage and interact with our iconic stripes in a really fun, unique, and innovative way. And this allowed us to really tap into a new consumer that is much more difficult to reach, the Gen Z and sort of early millennial consumer who isn't engaging with traditional media in a way that we may expect in the past. And so our focus was on, again, connecting our brand with consumers in a way that meets them where they are today and in the moments that matter to them. So I'll close out by saying, I think, you know, I was asked again when I started this presentation to talk about, is this the end of retail? So I can definitely say it is really not the end of retail. It's definitely a moment of reinvention. And it's a reinvention that allows not just Hudson's Bay, but all of us to get much more deeply connected to who our consumers are, what do they need in the moment, and how do we meet them where they are right now. And I think digital is where consumers are now. And so our focus needs to be on digital first, but really thinking about it as customer first, and that the customer will lead the reinvention. And it's our job to deeply understand what they need and pivot to where they are. And part of that is being purpose-led. Consumers are demanding all companies to be better, to think differently about change, to think differently about their role in social justice. And it's really important for us to strive to be purpose-led and stand for the positive change that consumers are looking for. So with that, I will close out and thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Meghan. That was very insightful. And if it was a real event, I'm sure we would have been having a huge round of applause for you. I do appreciate you giving us the time. So I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, if that's okay. So we know that the retail was hit hard by the pandemic. What are the big impacts that Hudson's Bay are facing at this stage?
Yeah, I think yes, retail was definitely hit hard by the pandemic, and in particular, those retailers that were designated non-essential. And I think that's probably one of the toughest parts of this. So I would say there's probably about three big impacts that we in particular faced. I think first was, as I talked about, this big shift in consumer behavior, how people are buying, how they shop. All of our, like for us, when our stores were temporarily closed, all of our sales shifted online. And so we obviously needed to pivot and focus entirely on e-commerce. And that allowed us to also, or forced us to shift, to react to the shift in consumer priorities. So it wasn't just, people stopped shopping in the store, so they moved to e-com. It was also they moved to e-com and then they shopped different categories. So this was really, as I said, around, things that brought them comfort. So whether it was bread makers or jogging pants or cozy blankets, it was much more around sort of that return to the home. And so people started renovating more, they started cooking more. And so what was in the past, maybe a focus on that we would have had on selling men's suiting or women's dresses quickly shifted to, skincare, kids' clothes, jogging pants, kitchen products. And so it's really the biggest impact was the shift to e-com, the shift in what consumers are buying. And then now that stores are open and people are shopping, it's really around safety. And so I think what we are seeing as well is that consumers are choosing their trips to the store very wisely. So they're planning their trip. They want to know that it's a one-stop shop, which of course Hudson's Bay has, but people are doing less of the, hey, I'll walk the mall today and kind of browse around. They're doing more deliberate trips. So I think it's the shift in channels, the shift in what people are buying, and then this new safety concern that's entered in and has changed how people make trips to the store.
And so now more than ever, how crucial it is for an organization like Hudson's Bay to deliver a frictionless omnichannel customer experience, and how is Hudson's Bay evolving its strategy in order to do so?
So I would say, I think frictionless experience has probably always been super important, but I think the behavior that we're seeing from consumers and what we're doing about it is that consumers are right now willing to switch brands because they want a frictionless experience. Whereas in the past, consumers may have accepted some friction because they're used to going somewhere, or they're, it's just they have an affinity to that brand. I think what we're seeing is some of that affinity is breaking down. And so everyone is earning back their customer each time. And so our goal at Hudson's Bay always is to create a best possible customer experience. And so prior to the pandemic, we were making these investments in our technology and our digital channels. And as we've transitioned to this new e-commerce platform, we have really been thoughtful around redesigning that customer journey, looking deliberately at how do we take friction out, reduce the steps to checkout. As I said, we reduce the friction in our loyalty program. So as people shop on thebay.com, they can seamlessly redeem their points without the friction they may have experienced in the past. So I think it is around creating this seamless customer journey. And again, that's always been important, but today I think what's critical is that consumers not only feel that, but they become aware of it in advance of making the trip. So a lot of the work that we are doing is to communicate to customers that we've changed and that we've made these improvements to the customer journey and the experience, in particular on thebay.com, since we know that's really the first stop for consumers.
By the way, those device sort of sanitizing, machines that you guys are putting, they're
UV.
very interesting. That's a very clever thing. So well done. So I just want to ask you in terms of your customers, because also you have sort of done, and you spoke about that, okay, we've redone or improved our loyalty elements. So how do you think the customer will continue to evolve?
From a loyalty standpoint, well,
Yeah.
Canadians love loyalty programs. So that is something that is true about Canada. We love our loyalty points. So I would say that what consumers love about Hudson's Bay Rewards is actually the product that they can redeem for. So in many cases, we had in the past a lot of friction in that. So you have these loyalty points, but it was difficult to be able to redeem them. And so what we've been able to do with this move to a new digital platform is get rid of all that friction. So now Hudson's Bay Rewards is so seamless that when you're at the checkout, you have $20. Would you like to redeem that today? And that feels really rewarding to consumers, much more consistent with the experience. So I think what we can expect consumers to do is want to feel like if they're shopping at Hudson's Bay, that they're being rewarded for that loyalty, and that they can see and feel that much more instantaneously. And that's what our new rewards program really does. It removes that delayed gratification that none of us can handle anymore. We all want instant gratification. And so you have the instant gratification, you're instantly rewarded for being a Hudson's Bay shopper, and you feel that more deliberately. And so I think we're gonna start to see consumers really get excited about that, and we'll also see them be rewarded for shopping more frequently, for getting special access to sales when they shop more frequently. And so I think lots more to come on that.
So, I mean, this is the time of the year when retailers get really, really excited, but also extremely busy with the holiday season, which is synonymous to like a shopping season. So what are the plans that Hudson's Bay has for this shopping season or upcoming shopping season?
I'm so excited about the holidays. It is our Super Bowl moment, that's for sure. Yeah. So I think, Hudson's Bay has done a lot of things. So there's a few things we know about the consumer. The consumer is actually much more interested in shopping holiday earlier than ever before. Many of us have seen that come out on different reports. We know that's true. They're searching already for holidays. So we made a very deliberate effort to launch our holiday marketplace earlier than ever before. So the first time ever, we are already in market with our holiday offering online and in store. It looks beautiful on thebay.com, and it looks beautiful in the stores. We have Christmas trees that we're currently selling through our Bay Days promotion. And so people are, and consumers are very excited about that. So first and foremost, it's starting early. I think the second part of it is we have a really integrated marketing program that is very exciting. So we're going to be unveiling in the coming weeks our campaign, which is called A Call to Joy, really reminding Canadians that today more than ever, we need people to celebrate the holidays, to really lift up our spirits in this moment. And so our campaign is called A Call to Joy very deliberately, and is featuring the 2020 Emmy Award winners and stars of Schitt's Creek, Catherine O'Hara and Annie Murphy, both iconic Canadian women, super funny, and we're very excited to have them featured in our holiday campaign. And everything that we're doing is really to get a jump start on the holiday season and help Canadians get a jump start on what they want to do, which is celebrate and get back to a more joyful holiday. And so that's we've got lots and lots planned.
Well, that sounds really exciting, Meghan. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming to DX3 Pulse and giving us information and insight about what's going on and how you guys have fared. I want to thank you and hope everyone would have found valuable insights out of what you have shared with us. For everyone who's listening, we're just going to log off for a few seconds and come back in with the next presentation from MasterCard, which is about future of retail post COVID-19. So stay with us. I'm just coming back on the other line. So thank you, Meghan. Take care.
Thank you so much. Take care.